Most important, and this is valid for every organization and also conventional business, is to define the common objective. And if you're able to define an objective for everyone in the company, this is where you pull everybody along. I tried to make it as a racing driver, but never really had the financing and the resource behind it, and decided, okay, if I can't do that, then I'm going to start early in finance, dropped out of uni, and over the years set up a venture capital company and then private equity, and then actually out of nowhere started to invest in motorsport companies. And the first one was Williams, a Formula One team, and one day to the other the CEO quit, and I was a non-exec, and they said, well, you got to run it now. I said, I never run anything, I just complain about people running things badly. So I did that, got a t-shirt with my name and ran it and loved it. And this is when Mercedes came back to me and said, can you explain to us why Williams is more successful than the Mercedes Formula One team? And this is how I've ended up with the team.
So you basically said, I'm the reason that they're more successful and you should take me.
Yeah, I think if you say it that bluntly, you're probably not going to get the job. But how it was, he said, I'd like to stay in Williams because I'm a shareholder, and that isn't possible at Mercedes. And they said, funny that you say that, it's actually possible. You can buy the shares of the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund that just exited. So I'm super proud today being in a joint venture with Mercedes. It's rarely that they do that. I don't know if ruthless is the word. I think when you come to a certain stage, it's it's getting quite tough. Formula One today is a political bomb field. This is how you say, minefield. I think there's so much going on politically around the regulations, where you're trying to extract the best for your team whilst not falling in traps that are everywhere. And finance was the same. I remember a situation where we were about to IPO a company. Literally the next day we were closing our books, and this is when one investor, anchor investor, said, I'm not paying the price, I want 20% less, and basically the whole IPO collapsed. So this is a little bit similar to what Formula One. Yeah, it's a difficult one because I'm in desperate search for one that finally can replace me, and I'm taking it easier. I think you need to have been in a car and have the understanding what the drivers feel. Also on the other side, what the engineers say, and be able to translate between the two. And then have a finance background to know how you run the team, do the key accounting with the sponsors, and at the same time lead the team. So overall, a little bit of everything, but not too much of each of these. Back in the day, team principal was the all-encompassing title. The teams had a size of a few hundred maybe, and the team principal normally was the founder, the chief executive officer, the team manager, all of these in one. And this is where this terminology came, because it's highly unusual when you compare it to other sports teams. There is a CEO, there is a general director, there's a coach, there's a manager, and in our sport it's all in ones. But it's changing. I think I'm one of the very few dinosaur team principals that are pretty much like in the old days, the Frank Williams or Ron Dennis. It's been more and more taken over by engineers that look after really only the sporting side of the team and not all the commercial activities or the politics. So it's just two of us remain there. Most important, and this is valid for every organization and also conventional business, is to define the common objective. And if you're able to define an objective for everyone in the company, this is where you pull everybody along. Now, in our sport, it's quite easy. We all want to win races and championships, and our salaries depend on it, and the bonuses, and so it's much easier rather than just hang it up on car sales or EBITDA. But what I want to establish is a real understanding of what is it that drives the individual. I can't design an aerodynamic surface, but I know everything about the head of aerodynamics. And if I'm able with my 10 or so reports to understand what is it that really drives them? I can build a framework around it to achieve it. And the same, I encourage everybody then on that level to look further down in their department, organization. What is it you can do? Because when you're leaders of an organization, all of us are only thinking about ourselves. What is it that we want to earn? What's our next career step? What car do I want to drive? Which holiday destinations do I want to go? How can I afford the next house? And we forget old Formula One cars.
So pretty.
Nice. They're beautiful, but they put lots of oil on the track.
And in the engines as well.
So, exactly. So, can you hear me well? Yeah. So, I'm trying to really build those frameworks, because promoting someone because that position is important is a possibility. Trying to structure payment system that is motivating for them is possible. Or giving somebody more time to work from home, which is not something I encourage a lot, but if somebody has a family situation where this is more important, I'll find a way. What kind of car scheme is that person on? Maybe the wife enjoys driving an AMG car to the kindergarten, so maybe put them on a good car scheme, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I take really a lot of time and enjoyment in finding out what is it that drives you? What is it that I need to achieve for you? When I joined, D&I wasn't really that much on the map culturally in a company. I've been raised in quite a diverse environment. I was lucky enough to go to an international school. My two best friends, one was a religious Jew, the other one a Palestinian who lost things in Palestine. And I was part of those discussions, and that was really, really valuable. So, but when I jumped into the adventure with Mercedes, it's all around performance. And with Lewis, he opened up our eyes to much more, the real human causes. And there's things I'm sure that will resonate with you. He said things to me like, how often have you ever thought about your skin color? I bet not many of you have thought about the skin color. And he said, every day I'm being made to think about it. Even if I check in at the reception, I might be a 7-time world champion, or back then as world champion. I can still see it. And then he said, how would you feel, because he speaks so much about diversity in the paddock, how would you feel if you would enter the paddock and you would be the only white person? They're getting faster now, more revs.
It's all right, they can hear you. I've just been given a thumbs up.
Yeah, so you're entering the paddock and you're the only white person. I said, well, that would be weird. So I can much more relate to what he means. And we have really worked hard in the organization to be more diverse, but not only because we want to achieve some kind of, doing good. It's because I truly believe that it brings performance. It has helped me in my life to have a wider perspective on seeing lots about other religions and cultures. And I think that if we can hire people that are different, that are not the typical Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard people, but we look at universities from North London that are less privileged, we will find people that are very determined, that bring us different angles of looking at things, and that's eventually going to make us faster.
Is this something that you're actively encouraging throughout the whole organization, is to look from a wider range of potential employees? Or is it just the engineering team that you think that you'll get those bespoke opinions?
So obviously, let's say the initial impulse came from Lewis, and that is something which we run with. I'm very lucky. I have so many really good and talented people in the organization that carry the ball once we define the key objectives. And what I'm trying to do is, maybe it's funny to hear in the context of the current Formula One event, but I take it with a Spice Girls song. I tell you what I really, really want. And I tell them what I really, really want, and they just run with it and deliver. So when when I met Susie, she was, or I started earlier. When I was a racing driver, and I'm 10 years older than she was, when I was driving in my second career, so in prototypes and GT cars, I was in Donington for a World Championship prototype race, and I heard there's a 19 or 18 or 19-year-old girl, Susie Stoddard, that was racing Formula Renault and just ended up on the podium with Lewis Hamilton, who was one of the most, let's say, ambitious young drivers. And then I didn't hear about her anymore. And many years later, when she was already a professional in touring cars driving for Mercedes, I met her again. And all her life she had to fight, the headwind about being a girl in a racing car. When she qualified for the karting world championships, the boys didn't want her to go with them with the flag around the track because they found it embarrassing. And she's been a trailblazer in all of these things. She ran a Formula E team and finished second in the World Championship. She was the last woman to race on an official weekend in an official weekend in a Formula One car. And today she heads Formula One Academy, which is the series that runs young females and with the aim of bringing maybe one or two into Formula One. And she does that with an iron grip, sometimes frightening for me, but also with a lot of compassion. Yeah, so we were very successful over many years. We won 8 consecutive World Championships, but that's the past. Nobody's interested. And then the regulation changed into ground effect cars, so where most of the downforce, the suction happens through the floors. And we kind of didn't get that properly. Year 1, year 2, our wind tunnel data and our simulations simply didn't correlate of what the drivers felt on track. So even now, the first 2 races of the season, our sensors and loads on the suspension tell us this car should have 100 more points of downforce. But we can't see that. So there's something which we need to change in the way we analyze those data, the way it functioned over 10 years, but not with these regulations. But this car is a much nicer platform than in the previous years. There's lots of goodness. It's just the high-speed corners that we are lacking performance that bit us in the last few races. So we watch the space, because in FP1 we are going to try 2 different floor configurations. One that should be much better, because on the first day of testing, we put this floor we are going to run now, we put it on the car, and the driver said the car is mega. Then we put Evolution 1, the driver said it's catastrophic. But obviously, it's not that simple. So we're putting the Evolution, the launch floor now on and see what it does, and hopefully through the weekend we can get better.